Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and this is our TNA show for the week. Let's jump right into it. First off, we're going to talk about the so-so segments. Basically, the segments that weren't good, weren't bad, were just there on the show. First up, we're going to have the opening segment, which started out in the back with MVP and Eric Young trying to decide who he would defend his title against, which led to a high card draw with Gunnar Anderson and Bobby Roode. Gunnar and Anderson both draw fours, Roode draws an ace. So the way it's set up, Gunnar will wrestle Anderson, the winner wrestles Roode, then the winner of that wrestles Eric Young. Kind of convoluted a bit, but you know, this TNA we're talking about, sometimes they get convoluted. Next up, we had Magnus versus Magnus' promo with Abyss, which eventually led to us seeing Bram, a new character that's supposedly an old friend of Magnus, which also had the first of many promos with Bully Ray talking about Dixie Carter. The thing is, I don't know where the Bully Ray Dixie Carter feud is going. It seems that they're splitting Roode away from Dixie, so I don't know who her wrestler is going to be in that. Maybe Ethan Carter III, maybe Spud, who knows. But to me, it just kind of missed a little bit. And last but not least, on our so-so segment, we had Willow, aka Jeff Hardy, versus James Storm. Willow picks up the win when Storm starts using weaponry and gets disqualified, which Storm starts walking back down the ramp backwards when Willow's threatening to cut him. Bumps into Mr. Anderson, which we're a little bit out of sequence here, folks. Something happened before that caused this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Anderson gives him the mic check on the stage, hopefully setting up a new feud for both guys. Next up in our bad portion of the night. Really, the one thing I thought was bad was Dixie coming out with the security, cutting a promo, Bully getting through security, only to have MVP stop him from attacking Dixie and putting her through the table, which was the theme of the night. He wanted to put Dixie through the table. Two things should have maybe happened here. One, Bully should have been able to put Dixie through the table. That's one, and then you could have finished that story off. Or two, we could have debuted. Sorry about that. When I talk about Bully Ray, sometimes I stutter. You'll get it if you're a longtime fan. Or they could have debuted a new character as Dixie's defender. But they chose to go neither route, and it was a little bit convoluted and confusing. I didn't like it. Next up, we're going to go right into our question of the week. Now, the question of the week from last week was, who do you see as the future of TNA? We got an answer from our friend Zombies40. I think EC3, King, and Gunner are the top choices, but I think King, if pushed right, could be the future face of TNA. I agree. I don't understand what the hesitation's been on pushing Kenny King. I've always thought he was an amazing talent. I liked him on the season Tough Enough. I thought he was great there. I liked his work in Ring of Honor a lot, and I liked what he's been able to do in TNA when he's been able to do stuff there. So I think he's a good choice. My choice would be someone you did mention there as well. If they can hang on to him, because I assume there'll be other entities calling and trying to get him to leave TNA, and that would be Gunner. Surprisingly, if you asked me a year ago, I would probably say that Gunner is a guy that should be on the chopping block. However, through his association with James Storm, and I'm guessing the mentoring of James Storm, I don't know what really went on backstage, he's grown leaps and bounds as an in-ring performer, as someone on the microphone. No longer is he just the Mr. Intensity kind of cheesy gimmick. Now he's a fully rounded out wrestler. And I'm not a fan of Gunner the person, and I've mentioned this several times. I didn't like what he said about $5 wrestling. I thought it was kind of petty and kind of silly for a guy to knock a promotion that's getting people paid. On the other hand, you can't deny talent, and the kid has talent. Now, coming off of that, we're going to go to our question of the week for next week. We've seen the somewhat leading up vignettes, and next week we're going to have the debut of the Menagerie. Mike Knott, or Nux, is new faction, I guess. It's, from everything that seems, going to be a Carnival face faction. The question is, are you excited to see the debut of the Menagerie? Do you think it's going to be something cheesy? Do you think it's going to be cool? Let us know what you think on the Menagerie, if you're going to be excited for it, if you think it's cheesy, whatever you may think. Hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, put it down where? Down there in the comments. Right down there, there's a little box. Make sure you click the like button before you go down in the comments. Maybe hit the share button as well. Share us somewhere. Just some suggestions. Now we're going to go into the good section of the night. First up, the match between Mr. Anderson versus Gunner. Winner gets to wrestle Bobby Roode. And then the winner of that wrestles Eric Young at the end of the night for the title. Gunner picks up the win when James Storm comes down. Tries to hit a kick on Gunner, but it gets turned around and hits Anderson on accident. Gunner hits the gun rack, picks up the easy win. Like I said, seems to be that they're moving on with an Anderson versus James Storm feud, which I think will be good. Two solid guys, two guys I think should be the highlights of the company going forward. Next up, we have the Ethan Carter III exhibition match with Rockstar Spud, showing that he's a amateur wrestler along the lines of Kurt Angle, which obviously only brings out Kurt Angle to tell him he has 1 week to get prepared for him, and then he's going to break his leg. I thought it was a pretty neat, pretty cool segment. I really think Ethan Carter III is really coming into his own and making a really special character out of it. Rockstar Spud, I think he's a great comedy talent, and Kurt Angle's just Kurt Angle. There's nothing more you have to say about him. Next up, we have the match between Gunner and Bobby Roode. Again, winner challenges for the title. Roode picks up the win in a pretty good match. I enjoyed this thoroughly. I'd like to see more of Roode and Gunner. Maybe they could go forward with a feud, since Storm seems to be moved on to Mr. Anderson. Maybe we can see Gunner and Roode going further. Just my opinion, something I'd like to see. Followed by the Bromans and DJZ, Zima Ion, versus the Wolves and their surprise tag partner, Sonata. Now, the thing is, the Bromans were complaining that they lost their tag titles in a 3-on-2 match when they had the 3. They said it threw them off, so MVP booked a 6-man. The Wolves and Sonata pick up the win. The end segment was really cool when they did the double stomp, moonsault, double stomp, followed by the pin. I thought that was pretty neat. Thought it was a good interaction, good way to keep the newer talent and some of the younger talent on the roster in a prominent spot on the show. Next up, we had the Beautiful People's ceremony or celebration for Angelina Love winning the Divas Knockouts Championship for a record-breaking 6th time. They come out earlier in the night. They talked about standards and practices, wanted them to wear something less revealing, dress more like ladies, so they come out in evening gowns. They feign that they're going to take everything off, which obviously gets a huge rise from the crowd. They take off their gloves and then say, "We wrote the note, stupids, we're not taking off anything," which brings out Gail Kim, Madison Rayne, and Brittany. Gail tries to strip them, they run away. Madison Rayne and Brittany get them on the stage, strip off the evening gowns, we see them scurry away in their underwear. If I have to tell you why I like this segment, then I guess that we think differently about the female body. That's all I'm going to say about that. Next up, and last but not least, our main event of the night, Robert Roode versus Eric Young. And I really think it's cool that they actually played off on the fact that these guys at one point were tag champions, were part of Team Canada, which they don't really mention that much anymore, which was one of the great factions in the history of TNA. I think one of the better ones they've had. A very solid match. Again, they're kind of doing Eric Young in a little bit weird way where he's getting the title and then becoming more of a serious wrestler than becoming more of a serious wrestler and then getting the title. It's different. I like it. I enjoy it. I've always thought Eric Young was a hell of a talent. Bobby Roode, I think, is the absolute best thing TNA has to offer and has been for quite a long time. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. I think the playing up with their history, the fact that when Roode or Eric Young wins at the end, he goes over and Bobby Roode's slumped in the corner. He puts his hand out, shakes his hand, and picks him up. I thought that was kind of cool. I think everything about it was neat. I enjoy the Eric Young fighting champion. I'd enjoy, seeing him defend the belt on every show. It's kind of a unique thing in this day and time. It harkens back to the time of the NWA when the TV title was defended on every TV show, hence the name TV title. But just a cool show, all in all. A cool match altogether, which is going to bring us right into our ratings for the week. Now, if you've seen the show before, and I understand you'll see what I'm talking about in a second, we're going to redo the namings in a minute. Probably sometime today after this, because I didn't think about it to do it before this. But we have a 1 to 5 scale. We have 1 as a Garrett Bischoff, 2 is a Jesse Yodders, 3 is a James Storm, 4 is a Christopher Daniels, which he's gone from the company, that's why we're going to move it. 5 is a Bobby Roode. Going to give this show a solid 3, a James Storm. I would say somewhere between a Storm and a Daniels, somewhere about a 3.5. But I'll give it it's more towards a Storm if I'm pushed to it. But all in all, a decent show. Could have been better at places. Could have been worse. A lot of the in-ring action I enjoyed. A lot of the interview segments I didn't. So that's what I'm thinking about on the focus going forward. But basically, that's all I have to say about this. My name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of Heel Heat.